Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular council meeting for August 4th, 2026, 7:06. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. If we can all please remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military members, please. Thank you. May be seated. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Roth.
Present.
Councilmember Upal.
Present.
Councilmember Wallace.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Present.
Mayor Moran.
Present.
For the record, of council members and mayor are in attendance.
Next, we have closed session announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council met in closed session and will reconvene into closed after the open portion of this meeting.
Thank you. Council, are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, moving forward with citizen comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the City Council on any item not on the agenda. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern and identify themselves. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. With accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the City Council this evening. Is there anyone on the phone, 708? Any comments on items that are not on the agenda? Hearing none, coming back to the chamber, is there any citizen comments in the chamber? Please step forward. Welcome.
All right. Well, evening, Mayor, Council, City of Livingston. My name is Karthik Prasad, here on behalf of Congressman Adam Gray. And it's finally August, which means the district work period is upon us. So you can bet it's going to be real busy as we have the member with us this entire month. And there's a whole host of scheduling things that we're taking care of as we get ready for the coming months and close the year out. But before session ended, Congressman did offer a number of amendments to two pretty important bills that were on the House floor, one of which was the Energy and Water Appropriations Bill. The Congressman offered an amendment that emphasizes that the Bureau of Reclamation collaborate with the South of Delta Transferred Works operators, water service, and repayment contractors to push for technological improvements that would modernize the water allocation process. The second bill was the Fiscal Year 27 National Defense Authorization Act. The Congressman introduced 5 amendments that would help streamline the naturalization process for military personnel and veterans. These amendments engage all agencies to ensure the naturalization process moves a little more smoothly than how it is set up currently. The amendment would require the Department of Defense to coordinate with the VA and Department of Homeland Security, providing them a list of individuals who have expressed interest in beginning the naturalization process, and would require the VA and DoD to include DHS naturalization processing resources on Military OneSource, which is an already existing 24-hour non-medical counseling website available after a year of service. And would also authorize military judge advocate generals to support immigration support requests for military members and their families. It would also require immigration services to provide virtual videos and online materials, included during the TAPS process. These amendments ensure that our military personnel and veterans who fought for our country have a much more streamlined and more accessible pathway to citizenship. In addition to that, the Congressman co-sponsored H.R. 5390, the Family Act, which would guarantee up to 12 weeks of partial income for workers who had to take leave for serious medical or family events. This includes the birth or adoption of a child, issues related to domestic violence, stalking, and certain military family circumstances. The Congressman also led multiple letters, including a letter that expressed opposition to the administration's recent decision not to renew the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. The Congress signed on to a letter urging Secretary Rollins to strengthen and expand the food purchasing programs and procurement capabilities for American-grown specialty crops. And the Congressman led a letter to Speaker Johnson with 23 co-signers calling for $15 billion in relief funding for specialty crop farmers. So Now that it's August, we've got a whole lot of work ahead of us, and as always, if any members of the council or members of the public present have any questions or concerns about any of the legislation mentioned, or just really anything at the federal level, feel free to send them our way. We're over in Merced. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other additional citizen comments in the chamber? Seeing none coming forward, closing the citizen comments at 7:12. Next, we have county supervisors' announcements and reports. Mr. Pacheco, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Just a couple things. On the 27th, I attended the swearing-in ceremony for 2 new sergeants and a lieutenant for the Sheriff's Department. Good moves for them. And we were told that there are going to be 7 deputy sheriffs that are going to be graduating from the academy here in the next 2 weeks. So they'll be added to the patrol division, which should bring them just about to full staffing. So that's a good thing. The jail is going to be nearing completion here, and so they're also going to be hiring 10 custodial deputies, hopefully, so we can have that fully staffed. So that'll be good for our public safety and our justice system to be able to open up a lot of beds and space in our jail. On the 30th, I attended the groundbreaking for the new El Nido Fire Station. The station that was currently there was built in 1955. It was built for a one-person station. They've added on at some point, but it was just in much need of replacement. So the new station is going to be about twice as big. It'll be able to hold a couple more apparatuses there. There'll be offices, fitnesses, and a living quarters for 2 personnel, male or female. So I'm looking forward to that. That should be done in about a year. So they got a pretty aggressive timeline to get that done. And good thing about this project is it won't shut down the station. They're going to start building the new portion of it, and when they get to the old station, hopefully they'll at least have enough room for an apparatus and have for the new personnel, then they'll be able to tear down the rest to finish that station. So a good move for the county and for the community of El Nido. On the 1st, I attended a graduation for the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten with, I think it was a very neat little program. There was actually 36 kids involved, and what the program is, I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. Basically, from birth till kindergarten, they encourage parents, grandparents, caregivers to start reading books to their kids, and hopefully by the time they get to kindergarten, they'll reading books themselves. So for the 30 participants that we graduated, like I said, they all either have been read or started reading 1,000 books, which is it's a good start to get kids reading again. I know that screen time is usually a concern for some people, and we want our library to promote that. And the good thing about this, the graduation was actually held at the Merced Library, but this is a county-wide program. So if you want to go to your local library, you ask them about it, they'll give you a little form, and you can start doing that. And they have a graduation for at the end of the timeline for that. Like I said, these little kids are so excited. They wore the little graduation caps. They got diplomas, certificates from not only the federal, but state and local levels. So a really good program. So I encourage anybody that has kids to look into that. On the 3rd, I attended the ribbon cutting for a new Golden Valley Health Center in LeGrand. Good, again, healthcare in rural communities. It's we're trying to make progress on that. It's nice when you don't have to travel to Merced or far away to get healthcare. And Golden Valley has been a really good partner with that. So we're excited to have that in LeGrand. Our next board meeting is going to be on August 11th. So if anybody wants to tune in. And just on a little side note, at the last, I think it was the last board meeting, so the DA's office is starting a retail theft task force. They've already had their first meeting. There's Proposition 36, which was enacted by the voters a while back. I don't know if I mentioned this, but it actually makes theft, that lowers the threshold to become a felony. So we want to just educate not only citizens, but everybody in the community and the store owners to start reporting these kinds of crimes because of Prop 36, we're able to take a little more action. And the DA's office has taken proactive to actually focus on those type of crimes. So it's just quality of life things. So it's a good thing. I said to give my district funds. They actually had some posters made. They'll be contacting businesses throughout the county and the cities and putting the posters up just to remind people that we are paying attention to the retail theft. And that's all I have for now. Let's see if anybody has something for me.
Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor, a quick comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Pacheco, thanks for being here. I know discussions over the last couple of years talked about how severely understaffed patrol has been in the past, and so really cool to see that
Yeah.
we're about to get up to full staffing, and send our thanks to everybody at the county, obviously, as well as to yourself for getting us to that point.
Yeah, and the sheriff's office has a pretty good program because what they do is they kind of hire from internally, so they hire people as the correctional officers, and then as they develop, they are able to see who these people are, and then they can handpick the ones that they want to go to patrol. So it's not like getting a brand new person; they already know who they're getting when they do that. So, so it's been a real successful program with that. So, thanks. Well, thank you.
Just one quick question. I noticed, so we have, what other fire stations are we, or is the county working on? Because I saw they're also working on the fire station in Stevenson.
I believe so. That's not in my area, so and not that I don't pay attention, but yeah. So, but I know that we're trying to. The money, the county has been setting aside money over the years to try to get these stations. Again, everything's going to 2.0 staffing, and a lot of these fire stations were built in the 50s and 60s. So, obviously back then it was a male-dominated field. So we're trying, we want to make sure that everybody has a safe space in these fires, and just that they're safe, because we need modern technology to be in these stations so that the people our personnel can respond safely and work safely in these areas. So,
What's the running cost on those fire stations right now?
I don't know. So our fire station, the total cost is about $7 million. We got a grant obviously from the rural.
Yeah,
the rural
I think it was
agency.
800,000.
About 781,000, and again, so the county's been putting away money long before I was in there, and so now they're trying to leverage that money that we actually having to, like I said, have 2.0 stations. We need to retrofit all these stations so they can accommodate these. So so they're we're kind of looking to the future and do as many as we can.
Yeah,
So,
perfect. Thank you.
You very much.
Appreciate it. Next, we have announcements and reports. Do we have any city staff announcements and reports?
None this evening, thank you.
Okay. Yes,
Oh, Chief,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, Chief, I forgot about the National Night Out. There you go.
Good evening, Council. John Ramirez, Livingston Police Department. So I just wanted to share with you and the community that our version of National Night Out, we're going to be holding it Wednesday, August 19th. It's going to be from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Police Department. We're going to have some free raffle prizes will be going on. We have some free food, drinks. We're going to be giving out free microchipping and some activities. So I wanted to invite everybody in the community. I have some flyers here. I'd like to come give them to you, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask. It'll be a good time. I know several of you went last time. Last year, I think Mr. Tran was there even as well. So hopefully we'll see you again.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, the microchipping is for the pets, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That is for the pets. So I just wanted to let you know, and the community as well. So it is on our social media hit today, so it'll be on there as well.
Do we have any more of those coupons for spay and neuter?
The what?
available? Do we have any more coupons for
Oh,
spay and neuter?
yeah, there's spay and neuter as well.
Yeah.
We may be raffling off a couple of those. I know last year we did, we gave out 2 of them, so.
few.
But
Okay.
those are always available.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
One thing, Chief, just a quick question. I know it's not part of this, but
Sure.
is there such thing as a mobile spay and neuter that we can bring into the city?
So are you referring to like the knit bus that they have?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you take your pet, because a lot of times what I hear from people sometimes is, they want to do something, but there's no local vet in town.
Right.
You have to either go to Atwater, Merced, or wherever,
Yeah, I know in Merced County that we don't have anything like that. I know I know Livingston Police Department has looked into it. Our code enforcement or animal control's looked into the last couple of years, which most recently was last week. They do have one in Los Angeles. It's a big,
Yeah,
awesome event that they have. But the furthest they come down south, I believe, is Fresno County. They won't come this way. We've looked into it, unfortunately. But we're always working at things and looking for.
I know you guys,
Yeah.
I know you looked at it in the past, and I thought maybe things change sometimes.
Yeah, no, currently, no.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council, any other questions? Thank you. right, any other staff?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have city manager announcements and reports.
Yes, that was my third item, but I'm just going to talk about it first since we were just talking about the spay and neuter. So I want to thank the chief and our code enforcement officer for taking the information that the mayor and I had received from our meeting with Assemblywoman Soria and other cities in Los Baños a couple of weeks ago. So basically, as the chief shared, hopefully they can continue to move, to Madera County, then Merced County next. However, we were successful in touching base with another organization called Mission Meow. And so I believe that our code enforcement officer is working on presenting an item to council next go around. So there is an organization that the department is working on. The other thing I wanted to share, and I kind of alluded a little bit about this information to council already, but so we received notification from the state that the maximum contaminant level, which is of a secondary constituent, in this particular case specifically manganese, it has changed, and so it's going from a secondary MCL to a primary. So basically that means that we're going to have new treatment, and it primarily is going to affect two of our wells that have manganese, and that's well number 15, which is a low capacity well, and then well number 11, which is a high capacity well, but we have it in low capacity because after so many gallons per minute, it starts to suck sand, so we don't rev it all the way up. So staff is going to be looking at, what we need to do to address, our current capacity limitations, if any, to this. Once we have well number 18 online, there shouldn't be any issues. Again, this is something that just came down very recent. And then lastly, I know that Mr. Mario Mendoza was here a few council meetings ago, and there was a number of questions that he had, and so I wanted to go ahead and just address those questions, not only to him, but the public and the council. So one of the questions that he posed had to do with some canal cracks in the leaks on the MID canals. So I reached out to MID, made them aware of these concerns. They do have a program in place, and as they can, and when the watering season is over, they come in and start to address, all those different issues related to that. He also brought up that there was a bond that was passed many, many years ago for the school district, and that, that there was some type of arrangement made that if the community supported the bond, that they can use the facilities at the school district. Specifically talked about the track. So I reached out to the school district, and I'm talking about the Merced Unified High School District, and they basically don't recall that information. They're researching some more, but they basically said if there's anybody in the community that wants to use the track or any other facilities at the school, that they have applications and they can reserve, and as long as they have the insurance, they can use the facilities. So that's open. The other item that he touched about was that many, many moons ago, several administrations ago, that there was a promise of a skateboard park in town, and that there was money set aside for a skateboard park, and that there should still be money for that. So staff did a lot of research on this, and what we were able to find is that that was something that was communicated. There was a council item, and they actually hired an architectural firm that was going to design the actual skateboard park. And from what we know, that never went nowhere. There was no money associated that was set aside for that project. And so that seems to be a priority for the community. We're going to be having grant workshops, going after more money, trying to create more parks, put different items in existing parks. And so the skateboard park is something that we're going to put front and center so that when money does come available, that we can actually address the skateboard park and put priority on putting a skateboard park in town. But again, no project and no funding was actually set aside or expended for the skateboard park, other than an architectural firm was hired, but from what we were able to find, there is no plans, and there isn't anything after that. I believe those were all the items that Mr. Mendoza shared. Is there anything that I'm missing, Mayor?
No, I believe those were the items that he brought last time. I do have another list, but I'll be sharing that with you later.
Okay. Well, that completes my report. If there's any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Actually, just a quick question, or if you could provide a quick update in regards to the traffic committee.
Yeah.
And then specifically, there continues to be.
The Newcastle.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So the traffic committee is a committee that basically is held as needed, and it's made up of engineering, public works, and also the police department and some other departments as well as needed. And so it was back in 2025. There was a gentleman off of Lincoln and Peach, which is Main Street, that basically brought to our attention that, you know, the safe routes to schools, there was issues with safe routes to schools, that there needed to be sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and several issues in that neck of the woods. So if you guys might recall, that item was then elevated and sent to the traffic committee. Then after the traffic committee, staff presented these items to council. We were looking at different funding sources. So there's different cycles, of funding that we've been looking at. So that is still a priority. We're still pushing forward on that project. The only issue is that we haven't received the funding, but it is something that's on our radar. And if I'm not mistaken, that is on the agenda for the next traffic committee to, because they bring this up periodically to just see where things lie. And we appreciate Mr. Singh for, bringing this forward again. And just for the public, I know that my email should be jramirez@livingstonca.gov, but the chief has my email. So my email is jose@livingstonca.gov. So he gets a lot of my emails. And just FYI, but you can keep J. Ramirez, no problem.
just real quick, and actually, thank you for bringing that up. I did have a conversation earlier today with Mr. Singh, K. Singh, and in one of our previous conversations, I think it was, he brought up the concern that now as school is starting, the intersection of Sun Valley and Peach, right next to Briarwood, I think it is. And I do live in the subdivision, and one of the things he mentioned, and I know because I see it every day when I exit, it has a couple of blind spots, primarily to the left, because there's the like white fence,
Picket fence?
yeah. And I think that's probably city-owned, or it's just been there for a while. But maybe if we can have staff just look at it and probably see any possible ways so that we can make that blind spot less of a blind spot. And then maybe, he also mentioned to have a consideration for the traffic committee to consider a lighted flashing lights like we do up by the high school. on that intersection, on that crosswalk. I do use that crosswalk at night, and it's pretty dark, and because of the way that the road on Peach coming from Maine is, it's kind of like elevated, and so sometimes cars coming or heading westbound are sometimes hard to see, and people are crossing the street, and, I'm not 25 no more, so I can just run. It takes me a little while sometimes. So, and I'm not the only one using that crosswalk, so maybe a consideration to see if it's justifiable to have lighted, those little lights on the street, or, something to make it more visible for cars that are coming in as they are approaching that intersection.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Singh. I will direct staff to analyze this. As you know, we have a formal process, so all the different professionals get together, brainstorm. We want to come up with solutions and not create other problems. And so we will definitely look at this, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
And just real quick, so far, I believe we still don't have any residents as part of the committee?
So the community, by the way, these meetings are open, so the community is open to come to any of the meetings. So you are all welcome. And if you have an item or you want to discuss an item, you can email, you can call, or of course you can use this venue as well, or call the electeds.
Can they be part of the actual committee?
That's, if we decide to do that, then we would have to,
Do a follow-up?
yeah, do a follow-up and structure everything a little different.
Okay, so if there's anybody interested, make sure you guys reach out to staff, city manager, and or if you have any questions, just let us know. All right, council, anything else? Any other questions? Okay, next we have conflict of interest declaration. Members of the city council will declare an actual or apparent conflict of interest before discussions or decisions about any matters in which they or anyone with whom they have a close personal relationship could directly or indirectly benefit, or which such a benefit could be perceived. Council, are there any conflict of interest declarations? Seeing none, moving forward. Next, we have the consent agenda, but before I move forward to the rest of the consent agenda, I will direct myself to Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision D3A, prior to taking final action on the Interim Chief of Police Employment Agreement, Consent Agenda Item Number 5, a verbal summary of the recommended actions must be provided. Accordingly, the Interim Chief of Police Employment Agreement on this evening's agenda for recommended approval reflects a base salary of $100,253.64, health benefits matching the Management and Confidential Employee Bargaining Unit, which provides the city will pay 80% of the employees' city-offered medical insurance premiums, 80 hours of administrative leave, and all remaining benefits matching the Supervisory Employee Association Bargaining Group MOU. That concludes the oral report. Thank you.
So moving forward, within the consent agenda, we actually have items 1 through 9. Are there any questions, council, on any of those items?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have a comment and a question on item 5, and then I'd like to pull item 6 as well as item 9 from the consent agenda.
Okay. Council, anything else? Seeing none, okay, so let's go ahead with
Sure.
question and comment on number 5.
As it relates to item 5, just wanted to give a shout out to John Ramirez, our interim chief of police. I believe this is the third stint in this role, has consistently held down the fort for the city over the last few years, and just wanted to recognize that effort. Hasn't been the most stable position in the city. Never heard you complain about it, and I appreciate that a lot. personally, just being willing to hold down the fort. So congratulations on that note. And then just a quick question, just as this item came up, questions getting from residents. I know folks on the council have been having this conversation at large with residents over the last several months as well. If we could get just a quick overview, general lay of the land of what the potential recruitment and future appointment for the chief of police position looks like beyond this temporary employment agreement.
So to answer Mr. Upo's question, it can either be, there might be an appointment or there might be a recruitment. So it's still to be fully determined at this time. There's a number of things that staff is looking at. Thank you, and myself.
Thank you.
All right, we're staying with consent. So we have item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8.
Motion to approve?
Hold on, let me go for public comment. I'll hold on to that. Is there any comments on the phone in regards to the remainder of the consent agenda items? Anyone on the phone, 739? Hearing none, coming back to the chamber. Any citizen comments in regards to those items under consent in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the citizen comments at 7:39. So I do have a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul,
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
All right, so we have, we pull item number 6, which is a consideration of adopting a resolution approving an agreement with Visa Inc. for website design and installation and ongoing support for website software. Mr. Rupaul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before my own discussion, I do want to thank staff for moving very quickly on this item. Council, if you remember when we had our discussion related to approving the budget, at the end of it, we decided that we wanted to make sure that we included something to update the city's website. We had included a $10,000 figure that day. That was only about 2 months ago, and we already have an item on the agenda. So first things first, thank you for moving on this so promptly. In the last, about a month ago-ish, maybe a few weeks back, couple of my friends that I went to school with here in Livingston who are software engineers, I don't know how the city's website came up, but the idea of it came up, and I let them know that we were considering improvements to it, and they're like, hey, you guys don't need to spend money on that, we could just do it for free. And I kind of picked their brain on what that would look like, and essentially, for folks that have the level of technological, I guess, ability that they do, AI is so advanced at this point that they're literally just putting stuff into AI and having that create these types of websites for them. It's not actually very difficult at all per se, considering how powerful the tools they are that are using. They just have to know how to manage them. They have offered to do this for free. They feel extremely confident in their ability to put websites together. One of them works for Amazon, one of them works for Pinterest. They manage all types of technological difficulties for those companies. And with Pinterest, I can definitely speak to the fact that they manage crashes on their server as well. And so a lot of experience and background here. And I think that it would be awesome for us to give kind of a couple hometown kids that were raised here, educated here, went out, did something cool, and now want to give back in a simple way that can save us $45,000 if we decide not to approve with this vendor. And so my ask for council would be to consider rejecting proposals today and working out a potential agreement with these two individuals, give them the opportunity to put something together for us. And if at any point, I don't expect this to happen, but if at any point we come to a place where we think that we're not getting what we need, we can always go out and pay for this again. But we have the opportunity to do this for free right now, and I think it's important that we save that money while giving these guys a chance to give back to their community. Another thing I want to flag for you guys real quick, the vendor that actually put out a proposal for us, FISA, according to these gentlemen, and they can speak to it themselves if we decide to work with them, their entire website, the stuff that they got going on, is all done through the same AIs that these guys would be using. They're using the same exact tools, but they want $45,000 from us to do this because they're a company, rather than being able to do this for free. I have heard potential concerns from the community about if we were to do this, to make sure that the city's not held liable in any way, any confidentiality agreements that need to be signed, NDAs, things of that sort for any information, considering that these folks are volunteers, to make sure that that paperwork is done the right way. And so I would leave it up to staff between our city manager and city attorney's office, if we direct them to work with these individuals, that they hash out what all those things might be. But again, we have an opportunity to save 45 grand here, and I think it'd be really cool if we give a couple of our hometown kids a shot to do this work for us.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Whipple. That was a very good comment you made. But sometimes free isn't always the best deal. When someone volunteers, we can't hold them to any particular time. They can do something and then walk out tomorrow and say, you know what, something new came up. Yeah, it makes it difficult, but now the city has to, or somebody has to scramble to have somebody take over. It can actually cost more in the long run. And to me, I'm not sure how the conversation came out, but when I believe we did go out for a bid on these websites, was there a reason why they didn't come in and say, we offer for free? Is it just talk to your friends and say, hello friends, let me just get you guys this business? Or I know it's not gonna be paid, but that seems like, I'm not saying I don't know the folks, I'm sure they're good, but it's kind of gets close to favoritism. To know somebody and then said, hey, you know what, let me just do that. And on this, and I know we all have read the staff reports and everything. Staff went through a lot of work. They talked to people, they met with staff, and they met with the folks to make sure that they understand what needs to be done. To just throw it away because somebody knows somebody, to me, it's a bit concerning. Yes, $45,000 is there, but with this, in my view, we have a signed contract, something is wrong, they're held accountable. You can't hold somebody, a volunteer, accountable like that. To me, I would find that to be somewhat questionable and troubling this way. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, if I could respond.
Yes, go ahead.
A couple different points here. You know, I think the first one is to have someone to offer to do something for free and create a narrative of favoritism when they're literally offering to do it for free is, you know, I just be mindful of the perception that folks are going to have when they hear that these individuals are going to have when they hear that, trying to find a way to give back to their hometown and have a narrative spun by an elected official that this is somehow favoring them. Because in reality, they got plenty going on. They do not need to be putting their time to do this. And just be mindful of that, especially considering these are young people that may want to be involved with the city at a future point, and there may be other young people that might hear that and think, well, maybe I shouldn't try to volunteer my time because it's going to be spun as a favoritism narrative. The accountability point, a very fair point. When someone is doing something for free, you may not get the same standard of service relative to a paid contract. This is why we can very simply direct staff to work out potential timelines, accountability metrics and standards, a work plan, scope of work type thing, where we can set our expectations as a city of what we need, and then we can put the ball in these individuals' courts. If they feel that they can meet that, they can sign their name on a piece of paper and commit to that work, and if they don't, they can say, hey, this was something cool that we tried to do. Sorry, we don't meet your expectations, and we can always move away from that. So there's an option there. And the third piece of why they did not put in their own proposal. By the time we had this conversation, we had this on a Saturday, I believe. I emailed the city manager either that day or within a couple days, and the work was already done on the city side. Again, staff moved very promptly on this. I appreciate the work that was done, and I don't want to disregard the process that was gone through to find vendors. I believe that potentially if staff was aware that there were folks that could volunteer to do this work prior, that may have been the first go-around. Obviously, staff didn't have the information from me or anybody else, so they followed the process that they always follow. I don't think they would have been interested in putting in a proposal considering the fact that they just want to find a way to use the skills that they gained after being educated here to give back to their hometown. So I hope that answers some of your questions, and I hope you consider the implications of your comments.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not implying anything that's illegal. That's not what that was not my intent. Is you said yourself, these are young folks, they're very busy. Website isn't just designed and then walk away. It has to be maintained. You know, and we don't know if there's going to be a 5-year commitment. To bring somebody else in after somebody's done the work will cost you more. They may say, you know what, I don't like this, or this don't work this way, and they end up having to do the whole thing. You know, we both know how that works. I don't mean this particular, but when somebody starts to work, just think about it. A contractor starts to work on your house, you get another contractor, it costs you twice as much because somebody stopped and they have to go back and redo everything. So I applaud them and I thank them, but I think we need to have a contract to where we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any other questions, comments? So when this conversation came up, actually, I think it was like July 6th, with city manager and then also with the proposal, I did reach out to legal, and because one of the first things that came into my mind was the legalities behind not only someone donating or volunteering, and especially with a government entity, and but also personally, one of the first things that came to mind was security of, especially nowadays with, you know, with data breaches and stuff like that. But on the legal side, maybe I'm not sure if Mark, I know that the one that provided most of the input in regards to this was Ms. Sullivan. I don't know if you kind of recall that email conversation and the recommendations and feedback from Ms. Sullivan in regards to this item and my question.
Thank you, Mayor. So I can speak in broad terms about the use of volunteer forces related to provide city work. Generally, it could trigger a whole host of issues related to this is more for, I think, work and physical environments, but work comp issues, insurance, indemnification, things like that. And when it comes to city records, there are, I mean, if you think about the materials that the city comes into contact with, it could include private information about an individual, where they live, things like that. So there's just sensitive information that the city has access to, and if folks are creating city websites, maintaining them, things like that, there are security concerns, and that's separate from the breaches that were mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so, and, you know, to me right now, that's kind of like what I'm looking at, and I also understand, and because I looked at the cost, which is, or the proposal, which is 45,220. That's over a 5-year term. Annually is roughly about $9,000. It's about $753 a month. And this service, or this contract, is not only to develop and design a website, which could be separately probably done by somebody else, but this also includes, you know, what do you call where they hosting the website, hosting the information, hosting all the data, hosting, you know, just everything that is required, that is attached to a city website. The domain configuration, and I'm not questioning whether or not they might be experts at what they do, and they're probably very good. You know, they're probably very good, and you know that's why they're being successful. But you know, just one of the things that come to mind, especially, and I'm not saying that you know, I know both of them. I mean, I know who they are. You know, they went to school with my daughter as well, and they graduated, you know, same graduating year, and you know, but when I'm looking at this, I don't want to look at this as just individuals, but you know, everything else that comes behind it. I mean, obviously, it's $45,000 investment, and it's also the service that will be provided if something, you know, something goes down on the website, there's a program that is not working, there's a link that is not working, and by both of them having a regular job, and this is not being their responsibility, we need to be able to have someone to reach out to, and you know, sometimes we need the help on the spot. We cannot rely on, well, I'm not available right now, you know, maybe on Sunday, maybe on Saturday, whatever that might be. And so just everything that goes behind, I think it would be, for me, it would be different if it was my own personal website. You know, it's just, you know, and then again, I'm not sure how it might be connected to HR, to PD, you know, reports, just personnel information, you know, and obviously I'm no expert at this, but just looking at it from my perspective, my main concern is the security, the safety, and the information that is going to be encoded in there. But that's just what I'm looking at right now, and I really appreciate the conversation. I think this is important. And then, and if the majority of council thinks that maybe we need to continue this conversation and we're not ready, or, you know, just, I mean, there's 5 of us here, but that is my perspective at this time. And then I'll welcome anybody to provide more information and maybe can help me change my mind or educate me more.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I would just like to thank the 2 young individuals for volunteering to do this. I think it's a great thing that you're trying to do for the community, but I also have the same concerns as everyone else, so thank you very much, guys.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
Just a quick question. When this first appeared, I thought about reaching out to UC Merced about somebody, the capabilities or people, whatever program they have, and Councilmember Hooper would know more about that if they have a IT section, which they must, and a class on this. But now after having the concerns that I've heard and listened to, it gives me a lot of concerns now also. And then that reaching out to UC or Merced wouldn't change anything that's already just been discussed.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
A few things to unpack here. Again, the process concerns, I think, are fair points from all members of the council. So first, to the city attorney, these issues with liability, potential confidentiality concerns, et cetera, can they be mitigated with contract forms and or other documents that can be provided to these individuals or any other individuals, including our contractors, for them to sign away anything that could hurt the city?
Yes.
Okay, very good to know, which I expect would be the case with any contractor we work with. Next question, this is probably a question for staff, and should have expected that this was gonna come up, so I apologize for not sending this in advance. Are we paying anybody to manage our current website? That is not a city employee.
Mr. Baines, would you like to address that?
Currently, it's not a individual person, but we have Civic Plus that monitors our website.
And so would these services, would we no longer work with Civic Plus once we move to FISA? And do we know exactly what Civic Plus does for us?
Civic Plus, basically, it hosts the website. So staff on our side, we upload, basically, the department heads are responsible for their own items that get uploaded to the, like, recreation. Jackie does hers. Monica takes care of the council and stuff that's on there. So each department kind of uploads their own items on there.
However, whenever we have some issues like big packets, agenda items, we have to contact them in order for them to upload our agenda packets because they're too big for us to do it in-house.
Makes sense, okay.
So Monica, why don't you, since you were intimately involved in this process, why don't you share some of the differences, some of the dynamics, and why, the FISA is being chosen?
So currently, with Civic Plus, we don't have any programs that assist us with the part of, oh my God, ADA compliance. So that's why we also went out to see what they would charge. And with all of them, looking at all of them, the simplicity of visas, and Visa offers the ADA without any charge compared to the Civic Plus. They charge individual subscriptions for the ADA compliance and also for the PDF to be switched to HTML. So it's just the simplicity and also the way that Visa would offer to sit down with each individual department to create our page for each department how we like it, and they're willing to work with us on how we want it to look compared to the other ones. They pretty much, they go on their own, they do their thing, and they would charge us if we want any changes.
Thank you for the context, that's very helpful. Council, if I'm hearing everything that's being stated correctly, there are pieces of this that we will need some form of paid vendor to manage moving forward. And so that is heard on my side and understood. One thing for council to consider, FISA is not only charging us for their subscription for them to be a continued vendor to the city, but there's also a cost just to build the website, the implementation cost. What I would ask council to consider, this may or may not be feasible, but the consideration that I would have for council is to table the item for this meeting, to direct staff to see if it's possible for us to get the website created through a volunteer basis and then managed through a contractor moving forward, so that we can potentially cut down the implementation cost while maintaining the services that we know that we're gonna need. Now, if it is too complicated to merge the work between the vendors, if FISA needs things to be done a certain way, or if they simply refuse to move in that direction, I think that's a consideration that we can come to at a later point. But one thing that I kind of would like all of you to consider is I don't think that we should pretend that this has been a big ticket item. I don't know if anybody had mentioned this on the dais until I had brought it up. By no means is this something that's got to get done tomorrow. Now, it's something that we know we want to get to, so let's not just forget about it. But I personally am comfortable with us trying to see if we could work something out to split and maybe save a little bit of money. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that would be my ask for council, is to consider that and potentially move in that direction.
Thank you, council. Anything else?
No, are you ready for a motion?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I gotta go off for public comments. You keep on forgetting. What's wrong with you? You forgot already? All right. Okay, so at this time, at 8:03, I'm gonna go out for public comment. Is there anyone on the phone at this time that has public comment in regards to this item? Hearing none, coming back to the chamber, is there anyone, is there any public comment in the chamber in regards to this item? Seeing none coming forward, closing the citizen comment at 8:03, coming back onto the dais. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion that we adopt a resolution approving the agreement with FISA Incorporated for website design, installation, and ongoing support for website software.
So we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul,
No.
Councilmember Wallace,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Semmer. Yes. Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-1.
Thank you. Next item was item number 9, consideration of adopting a resolution accepting the low bid and awarding a contract to Bobo Construction, Inc. for the total bid of $4,950,290,000 and, no, I'm sorry, $4,950,290.61 for the construction of the Livingston Recplex project, authorizing a contingency for contract change orders up to 10% of the contract amount, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. Mr. Opal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have issues with approving the item tonight. Just this is a big ticket item, something that city's been working towards for several years. I know that when staff picked this back up and really tried to start rolling early last year, things did not look great. There's been a lot of work done to work with the grant administrators to trim down the costs as much as possible while meeting their requirements. And so I do appreciate the work that's been done to get us to this point where we're ready to accept the bid and go build. I think it would be nice for us to kind of just provide some context about what our funding shortfall looked like last year when this was really picked back up, and then kind of just like lay out what's been done to get us to this point. I do think residents that are tuning in or may tune in would benefit from that kind of overview.
Yes, thank you, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Rubel. So just going back in history, we applied for a grant under the Prop 68 twice. It wasn't until the second time around that we actually got funded. So we got funded about if I remember correctly, I think it was 7.8 million, Happy? $7.9 million. Of that $7.9 million, one of the first costs was the acquisition of the Livingston Farmers Association building. At the time, there was talk about actually purchasing the 2 buildings plus the parking lot plus the vacant lot. And so ultimately, I wasn't here during, after we got the grant, I wasn't here, and council decided to move forward just with 1 building and the parking lot and the empty lot. And so if you take that $7.9 million and you subtract the cost of the properties, you have a remainder, and I don't know what the city actually paid. Maybe Mr. Baines can share what we paid for the buildings. At that point, basically the city started to incur costs associated with the project. So there was actually, the city hired 1 architectural firm, and then the city hired a 2nd architectural firm, and then there's been a series of meetings, there's been design work, and it's my understanding that the project that was being talked about at that time was projected to be close to $12 million. Keep in mind that the city started off with 7.9, and then it reduced the cost of the property and the building, and then the costs associated with the consultants that were hired. So of course, at the end of the day, with community input, council input, staff input, an actual project was agreed to. And so right now we're looking at having a standalone building that's going to be close to 9,000 square feet with a number of deliverables that were outlined in the grant, because we need to meet those deliverables and we need to have the building open and ready for public use by December of 2027. And in order to save some costs, staff basically asked Dolan to no longer provide services for the city, and so we only kept 1 architectural firm. And some of the public works folks, we were able to knock down as much as or demo as much as the building where the new building's going to go that we can do. And so currently, we put together the bids, the plans, the specifications, got those all completed and done, and we went out to bid, and there was the lowest, most responsible bidder that is being presented this evening. We were projecting a cost of somewhere between $4.5 million and $4.8 million. You never know what you're going to get in terms of bids, but the bid came close to 4.9, and there's always contingency costs as well. So as part of this package that we're presenting to council, we are suggesting, rather than have a 10% contingency, have a 5% contingency, and that shortfall, well, we're sharing with council a number of different options. So staff has been looking at what we can use to mitigate that shortfall of grant funding. The grant funding that we have right now is about $4.4 million. So we're talking about Measure B funds and other funds that we have outlined here for council, including dipping a little bit into the reserves, if that's what council suggests. But the project, we need to move forward because of the 2027 date. If there was a little more wiggle room, we anticipate the project being done by September of next year, so we would like to have construction start in September of this year. If we had a little more time, then I would say let's go out, let's rebid this again and see if we might get, lower bids. But again, I think that that's a little too risky. So these are the options that we're providing to council to consider. We believe that this is a dynamite project and that we will finish before the due date.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. And again, as I said over here, I do appreciate the effort to pull from a bunch of different places to mitigate our funding shortfall. If we could confirm, just for the record, after this project is approved, do we expect any funding shortfalls as it relates to the Recplex, or is this kind of the last haul?
So keep in mind that the funding that we're asking for here is just to build the actual facility, the building, and everything on that lot. This does not take into account the connecting MID power, which we can connect to PG&E power, but, you know, staff doing his due diligence and trying to make sure that we look at saving money and create better partnerships. So that line of work is separate, and that's going to come before council at a later date. Right now, as it relates to what we are supposed to do for the Prop 68 deliverables and have that be completed on the due date is what's before you.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council, anyone else? So at this time, 8:12, going off for public comment. Is there anyone on the phone with questions in regards to item number 9? Hearing none, coming back to the chamber. Any citizen comments or questions in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the citizen comments at 8:13. Council, any additional questions or motions?
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mayor.
Just, I want to make a clarification. There's a clerical error on where it says 10% of the contract amount. It should be 5%.
Which page?
It's on the third sentence of the title on 9
Okay, in the recommendation.
on our agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
In the recommendation, it said 5%.
Yes, on the agenda, it says 10%.
Okay.
Oh, on the,
Yes.
on the cover
Yes,
agenda.
there's,
The cover.
yeah,
Yeah, I always look at the agenda itself, not the,
I
Okay.
just wanted to make that clarification
Yeah,
so we can
I did
be
see
on the
that.
same page.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
In the resolution, it is listed as 5%, so the actual approval would be.
yeah, 5%, yeah. I saw that.
All right. Okay, was there a motion
Yeah, I made the motion, yes.
on the mic?
Yes,
Okay.
okay.
Just wanna make sure.
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion, we adopt the resolutions, accept the low bid and award the contract to Bobo Construction for the total bid amount of $4,950,290.61. And for the construction of the Livingston Rexplex project, authorizing the contingency of the contract change order to 5% of the contract amount and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Roll call, Councilmember Ross,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul,
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Semmer,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor,
Yes.
one quick thing before we go on. I didn't find my note quick enough. On the consent agenda on item number 7, on page 91, it says the effective date is July 21st. I don't think we made it. The city attorney, can you advise me on that, or the council in the city? Somebody got to change it. Page 91 on item number 7, says the effective date will be July 21st, 2026. What is the new date?
Okay, so this action, the council did vote on this, but to address Councilman Wallace's question, that's when direction was given by the city council. So this agreement was brought to the council to ratify the agreement. And it's not unusual to backdate an agreement to cover authorized work.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So next we have discussion and potential action items. Item number 10, requesting for direction on city requirements for new park facilities and storm drain basin design preferences for a minute, I thought we didn't pay the lights.
Just one of the lights, Monica?
For pre-development review application number PDR 2026-3, Cabral Farms Residential Development Proposal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, there should be a printout in front of you all, and that Miguel's going to be, our planner is going to go over. And Mr. Cabral probably is in the restroom, I think. Oh, okay. Noe, can you let Mr. Cabral know that we're talking about his item? Oh, okay. Got it.
Mr. Mayor, can we go and begin with the presentations instead of waiting for the applicant?
Is he here?
Let's go ahead with the presentation. He'll be here shortly.
Okay. Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Miguel Galvez, the contract city planner here for the City of Livingston. As mentioned, this is an item that we're bringing to you for your consideration and guidance. This is an application that was submitted by Eric Cabral. He's the property owner. On behalf of him, Precision Civil Engineering, and I believe one of his engineers is online, or at least they were going to be on the phone. That's Ruby, I believe, might be on the line. But,
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
okay, yeah, she's online. So this involves property that's located in the northeast part of town, over off on the south side of Olive Avenue, on the east side of Dwight. It's about a 40-acre property. It's currently located in the county. It's outside, well, it's inside the city's sphere of influence. It has a general plan designation of low-density residential. Looking at this map, I just want to orientate you. The property that we're talking about is outlined in red. The city limit line, looks like the door is locked back there. The yellow line is the city's sphere of influence. That's the ultimate area of growth at this point in time. Okay, good. The applicant has walked in. The city limit line is the area that's outlined in black. The project area is the outline, that's the property that's outlined in red. Just to give you a little more reference, I outlined a storm drain basin that's in purple. It's just south of the project site. And then there's park sites that are outlined in green, and I'll be referring to this. In any event, we received a preliminary development application. The applicant is looking at annexing this property in red, developing it into 159 single-family lots. It would require a pre-zoning to R1 low-density residential. It would also require annexation. It would require approval of a tax sharing agreement with the county. As I mentioned, it's a single-family subdivision. Here's an overall composite of both the north half and the south half. Primary access would be off of Dwight Way there on the left, and then Olive Avenue on the north. There'd be no access to the properties to the south or the properties to the east. The north half, as I mentioned, it has 7,000 square foot lots. That's the current R1 zoning standard. The properties on the south half actually they're looking at incorporating 4 of the lots that are in the southwest corner outlined in red and converting that into a storm drain basin. It would be a standalone storm drain basin. It would be fenced off. And so as they propose this, they're asking staff for our comments regarding this. So here's the design of this. Typically our standard for a standalone storm drain basin is, it's a fenced-off area. There's no access except for city staff to access and maintain it. It has fencing that's chain link with slats, so you can kind of see what that would look like. And so when we're providing comments to the applicant, we came up with a number of issues. One is the type of design we like to incorporate for storm drainage. Two, what is it going to look like? Three, what is the desire for the establishment of parks and recreation facilities in this neighborhood? Four, should we consider a joint use storm drain and park facility? Other issues that come into play is what would it cost for the applicant, but also what does it cost the city to maintain and operate a dual use basin or any type of basin? At the end, we want to provide guidance to the developer, and the reason we're bringing this item to you is so we can present all the facts, all the issues that we're wrestling with, and get some type of guidance from the consensus of the city council. First, the first issue, the storm drain. Currently, the city has an engineering standard, and here's the standard. It's what I call a standalone storm drain basin. Basically, it's a fenced-off basin with access. There's facilities for pumps and pipes and things like that. These are detention basins, which means that they will store water between the rains. Retention, it retains the water forever. Detention, it holds it and then it transfers it offsite somewhere else. So this would be a detention basin. As I mentioned, we have a standard for this. Here's the drawing for this. We have some policy sections, and those are attached in the council report. However, we do not have any design standards or guidelines for the aesthetics of a basin, a standalone basin. And that's one of the concerns that we try to wrestle with. This is going to be a new development. What should it look like? Should it continue to look like? Some people say a hole in the ground with weeds, or should it be more aesthetically pleasing? And where should it be placed? There is a basin located to the south, which we'll talk about. So here's, again, the standard, and here's text in our engineering standards that deal with storm drain basins. There's an item here that talks about the aesthetics, which doesn't provide any guidance other than says that the city can approve aesthetics, and there's really no guidance for that. Again, one of the issues that we're looking at is there is an existing basin that's identified in purple that was put in as part of the development of the property to the south, that subdivision. And so one of the considerations that we were thinking about is, would it make sense to tie in the basin that the applicant is proposing with this basin, making it a larger basin? Again, a standalone basin with no recreation facilities. These are some examples of existing basins. So this is a copy, or excuse me, an area of the basin located to the south, and here's a street view. Again, not very much to look at. Here's another one. This is over off of Sinfandel in the southeast part of town. So you kind of have the fence, and then you got a depression, a basin, if you will. It's got some weeds and things like that. So these are some examples of standalone basins that are for residential development. This is kind of what we would be looking at based on our standards. As I mentioned, under our engineering standards, item number 6, there are other requirements for safe aesthetic maintenance and special conditions that may be imposed by the city. But yeah, we don't have any identified design guidelines that would help us determine that at this point in time. Again, one of the main issues is we don't want it to be unsightly, unsafe, or unusable. When we look at parks and recreation facilities, the general plan has policies and goals on this. When it comes to a park, when we provided comments to the applicant, we mentioned to them that the city requires a park facility of 5 acres for every 1,000 people. This development would probably generate 150 lots at 3.5 people, so it's several hundred people. And so we were looking at requiring a standalone park that would impact their development, would remove lots. the other consideration we talked about was having a dual-use basin, which we'll get into. But here's an excerpt from the 1999 general plan for park acreage. Again, 5 acres for every 1,000 people. In addition, it should have incorporated a basketball court as part of the park facility. When staff looked at the nearest facilities for recreation, we have the Max Foster Sports Complex south, and then you got the Don Myers Park, which is located about 5,000 feet away, and you have to kind of walk all the way around. So there really isn't any parks that are close by. When I spoke with the recreation superintendent, her opinion is that we really need a park facility in this neighborhood, since there's no park facility developed with the subdivision to the south. It would be nice to have a standalone park where there's playground equipment, there's play fields. Again, these are not facilities that are impacted by a basin, but just a standalone park. Here's some examples. Here's Lucero Park, where you have a park facility with no basin, so there's playground equipment, there's trails, there's picnic tables. Another one is Memorial Park off of Main Street there. And these are just good examples of standalone parks with active play fields and playground equipment. When we look at dual-use basins, as I mentioned, we do not have any standards or guidelines for dual-use basins, let alone standalone basins. The city did adopt a storm drainage master plan in 2007, and a copy of those guidelines are included in the council's agenda's attachment E. However, that drainage master plan was invalidated with when the court overturned the 2007 general plan. So we kind of don't have any adopted guidelines, but they're still useful. Some of the issues that have come up that have been identified is when we have storm drain basin, we look at how deep they are. Currently, our standards are 10 feet, but we also have to factor in slopes with a standalone basins, like for every 4 feet you drop, for every 4 linear feet you drop 1 foot. With a dual-use basin, it goes out to maybe like 6 feet or 8 feet linear feet, 6 to 1 or 8 to 1. But these slopes are difficult to water and keep green. When we talk to Public Works, they have to use a lot of water to keep that area green, and not to mention that it's a little more challenging to mow the lawn or maintain the sod there. They have to oftentimes even deal with erosion in some cases. Other issues with the dual-use basin is the parts of the bottom of the basin become soggy. They remain soggy, and they are ineffective during the rainy season. So you kind of have a park there, but you can't use it the whole year round. And when you do have it during the summer with excessive rain, excessive irrigation, the bottom part of the basin can get soggy. In some parts, it can just build up a lot of weeds and things like that. In some parks, they are rotor-tilled or disc just to keep the weeds down. And speaking to the parks folks, playground equipment's not typically placed down in the basin, the bottom of the basin. Usually they're placed up top, and there's not very much room for the playground equipment to be placed there. You got bathrooms and picnic tables. So you try to maximize both the basin and the park as best you can. But these are some of the challenges that we have. The other issues that have come up is the bottom of the basin may be a safety risk. When it gets really full, it always poses the drowning risk. The other item is they're real low, and you lose visibility from the street view. So if there's anything that's going on that's illegal, it's hard to monitor that because they're real low out of sight from the street view. The other issue is if you have a standing water, it becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes, so vector control remains an issue. So these are some of the issues that we look at. Here's some samples of some dual-use parks, basins in the city. You got Joseph Gallo Park, which incorporates both playground equipment, picnic tables, bathroom facilities, and a basin, which also is used for field activities. There's an aerial of that and a picture of that. Another one is the Arcalian Park, similar here. You have a more graduated slope, but there isn't a lot of room for playground equipment, or at least not a whole lot has been installed. So these are some of the issues we've been wrestling with internally. When it comes to costs, obviously there's costs with designing any basin, not only the slope, but also just the pumps, the pipes, the grates, all that type of stuff. There's the cost of excavating. There's the cost for fencing, for standalone basins, not to mention there's maintenance costs associated with debris removal and trash accumulation that may occur. Not to mention you have to mow the sod in a dual-use basin, rather standalone basin, there's no sod. In some basins, there's invasive brush, and so you always have to be cleaning that out or maintaining that. And then there's annual inspections of grates, pipes, and other facilities that help keep that basin running smoothly. So these are some of the costs that came up. Looking at all these issues, we want to provide a good recommendation to the developer. It's important for them as they're at this stage, as a preliminary review stage, and helping provide some guidance of how they can incorporate either a standalone park, a standalone basin, or a dual-use basin incorporates both, and how it would affect their property. So it helps them with their utility planning, it helps them out with determining the road and lot layout of that, and it helps them overall with the build-out plans of infrastructure out there. Standalone parks and basins or dual-use basins can also be included as part of their marketing plan, where they look at developing homes and selling them. Lastly, identifying all these things up front, it helps the developer really identify and have a good grasp of what their cost is for developing the property, and then looking at what their performance for construction will be. And it also help the city determine its cost for maintaining those facilities. So these are some of the issues we've talked about. If I may, I want to kind of walk through some questions that we're asking the council, and these are perhaps that can be answered in progression manner. One, should there be a standalone park for this part of town? Two, if not, should the developer just be allowed to pay in lieu fees to pay for park mitigation? Those fees can be used to pay for equipment or land acquisition. I know I was speaking with Jackie. She says, for example, that we don't have any equipment at Max Foster Park, or maybe fees can be used to help pay for other regional improvements, maybe some improvements or equipment for the rec facility. So there's standalone park in lieu fees. The other question moving forward is, should there be a standalone basin? Is that acceptable as it is without any aesthetic designs? Or should we look at requiring a combined dual-use basin that has both park and basin facilities? And if that's the case, should we be looking at guidelines for that? So these are some of the questions that we're wrestling with, and we're hoping to get council's input on this. To make it real simple, our recommendation is to consider any comments from the applicant, comments from the public, and provide direction to staff on what we should be requiring for development at this site. I know the owners here, one of his engineers is online. We have our city engineer who's also present that can respond to questions. So at this point, I turn it back to the dais.
Thank you, Miguel. Two quick questions. One, so just to, so for every time there's a new development, it is required to have, well, if it's based on what we have in the books, it's if a 5-acre park will be built for every 1,000 residents, right?
Yes.
So it is required to have a park and a water basin.
There are two different things. We are required to provide park facilities according to our general plan. And depending on our master plans, we are required to also address stormwater collection and disposal of that. And they can be combined, but we need to have a plan for both of those. And I don't know if nobody wants to add anything else to that?
So I think I understood your question, but I'm still a little confused and I'm not clear enough.
I'm sorry.
So if I'm a developer and I want to build, I need to provide a park and a water basin based on different requirements.
Yes, and let me clarify, to address a park, the park can be met through the park needs from the city can be met through a number of methods. One is to pay park in lieu fees. Another would be to dedicate land for a park, or another would be to actually do a combination of putting in a park facility and equipment. As long as the park needs, it can be a neighborhood park, it can be a community park, it can be any park facility that the city finds that would be appropriate.
Okay,
And-
can you go back somewhere to where it has like the outline of the different lots? Is there a picture? I think it's on. I think it's either slide number 5 or 6. We'll go to 6. Yeah, because, I mean, this only shows, currently only shows a water basin, but not anywhere if council gave direction to include a park. Is there an idea where that might be? If council chose to go that way or to consider it that way?
Yes, you are correct that this only shows the location of a standalone basin. If the council would like a park developed in this area, we would suggest that a park be developed in the central part of the subdivision, kind of in the middle, and that would be separate from the basin. The other option is that a parkland is not dedicated or provided, and the applicant just pays for park in lieu fees. Obviously, we require land for park dedication is going to require amendment of a subdivision map. He'll be losing lots. So that's one of the questions that we have is, should we require a park for this area that serves not only this neighborhood, but perhaps neighborhoods to the south, or perhaps future neighborhoods to the west?
And then only, because based on the report is, open space element requires 5-acre neighborhood park for every 1,000. But we're looking to probably that this will create a place for about 550 residents. So obviously, there will be no requirement for a 5-acre park. But just to, I'm just trying to bring those to the front to provide a additional perspective of, yeah. It's prorated? Yeah. So it will be roughly about 2.5 acres, roughly, more or less. Okay. No other questions for now. Council, any other questions at this time?
Yeah, Miguel, I have one quick question. On that area below the red where you have that purple basin,
Yes.
is that capable of holding enough water if we connected from that development into that basin? Is it a big enough area, or can it hold that? That's a question that would be, can it hold it?
That's a good question. I'll have to defer to the city engineer. My understanding is that based on its current design, it would not have the ability to hold additional water there, but I don't know, you can speak to that.
Good evening, Council. Noe Martinez, Officer of the City Engineer, and Councilmember Wallace, to answer your question. That basin was specifically designed for that subdivision, so it wouldn't accommodate any additional housing.
Miguel, real quick, so and then, I don't know, Noe or Miguel, for any additional water basins that we build from now on, is it required to include the pumping system to be able to pump that collected water out? Because I know that currently we have at least one of the parks that doesn't have a pump in there, and it's always an issue. It's always an additional cost that we have to rent a pump for during.
Yeah, so that's a question that can be better answered by MID, but my understanding is that the city has an agreement with MID that anytime ag land is designated for development, there has to be an agreement between the two, and then about collecting storm drainage and pumping it into their canals.
Okay, but, so, I think right now that's what we're doing, right? With all of the water bases, we're pumping the water out. We're not letting it stand, correct?
There are some basins in the city that don't have pumps, but most of them do, yeah, especially the bigger ones, yes.
Okay, and then, because later, if we end up having just, whether it's a combination of, if it's not addressed earlier on or at the beginning, then the city has to address that with an additional cost. Like right now, I know for sure, on Fred Warden Park, probably the cost has gone up, but the pump for that park was estimated a couple of years ago at $800,000.
Correct.
So probably now it's
That,
a bit
yeah,
more.
that subdivision was approved without a pump station, and there should have been one as part of the original design.
Yeah, I don't think we want to do that again. But, yeah, so, but anyways, just as additional information too, because I didn't see maybe I didn't read the whole thing correctly, but I didn't see a mention of the pump specifically.
Yes, Mayor, all that's outlined under the conditions of approval. We're not that close yet, but this is very important to the applicant and, of course, to staff. And so we're coming to you at the beginning, in quotations, before, this moves on to Planning Commission and ultimately here.
And if I may, Mayor, to go back to your original question, if there's two different standards, one for parks, one for storm basins, and the answer is yes. And however, they can be done independently, but when there's an opportunity to combine them and create something better, that's what we're discussing tonight.
Yeah, no, definitely. And actually, that is one of the highlights that whenever I have the opportunity to bring people to the city of Livingston, and that is one of the items that we showcase to them, that that we have multiple use for the land, and the advantages that we have when we're able to use it as a green space for the residents as well. So yeah, I'm all in favor of that, but just want to make sure that we if anybody has any questions, and all of the items are addressed earlier on, and not wait, not have any surprises for anybody later on, because everything costs money. Council, any other questions at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
Miguel, thanks for the presentation. Noe, thanks for answering the questions as well. It sounds like whether, hypothetically, council, two of the options that we have are to have a standalone basin and a standalone park, or a dual-use basin and park. Those are two of the several options on the table. Assuming council went with either of those, we do not have the correct standard, engineering standard for both of those different options at this time, correct? Or an updated standard?
It's my understanding that we do not have a standard for a dual-use basin, particularly one that addresses aesthetics.
Or a standalone basin, correct?
We do
That
have a
was
standard
mentioned
for a
earlier.
standalone basin, yes.
We do have the standard for a standalone basin.
Yes, we do have that.
Okay. So, consideration for council there. I would say my preference is for us to end up with a park at some capacity once this development is all said and done. And I do want to flag, appreciate Mr. Cabral being here tonight. Did speak with him on the phone already prior to today's conversation. And one thing that I very much appreciated, you don't hear this always from developers, is, look, we're open to doing whatever path or moving in whatever direction that the city is interested in moving forward. And so I think that's something that the residents will appreciate when this is all said and done. It's the beauty of having developers that are from your town. Obviously, we get favorable treatment from Mr. Castillo as well, who's also here. So very much do appreciate that. Council, I would say my general preference is for us to end up with a park once this is all said and done. But I'll leave it to you to kind of maybe ask any other questions or provide some commentary on how exactly you feel we should proceed.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I also would like to thank Mr. Cabral. He's been great. He's certainly, a great leader in the community on all fronts, always donating for different causes and helping out, and we very much appreciate your input. As staff, if you've heard from staff, and all options require, there's always some give and takes. So it's hard to compare all these things. So at the end of the day, at the end of the evening here, what we need to look at is, okay, what is the maximum, most beneficial use of limited space that the community can actually enjoy and use? If you might recall, a few years back, we were talking about a dog park, and we're looking in around town to see where we can actually put a dog park. And we ended up looking at drainage basins behind Yamato School, and because there's a big space back there, but we can't use it, because of a number of different issues. So ultimately, staff is bringing this forward because we believe that there's a great opportunity here to do a dual use. And yes, there is some issues, but I think that if you look at all of the different aspects of just the park by itself, the size, also is an issue. The fact that, you have drainage basins like the one over by Winton Parkway back there, it's unsightly. There's a fence, and if you peek over the fence, you're not going to look at something very pleasant. So I think that here's an opportunity to address, an opportunity because you have a developer that cares, like Mr. Cabral, where we as a municipality can, again, honor the residents over on that side. And yes, there'll be some inconveniences once in a while when you have wet years. But if we mitigate and address these things in the proper fashion, if the full park can't be used, when you do a dual purpose basin, you already know going in, you're not going to be able to use every inch of that park because it's a dual use. But if you have 3/4 of a use, you have a space that can be used, and everybody can benefit. So does that mean there might be a little more cost? Yes, but ultimately is to have green space and not dead space.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I heard comments from Mr. Upo. I agree with you, Dubjit, that parks are the way to go. If something can be incorporated, it is the best. And I do not like fenced-in storm drain basins like we got there. We got some other around here. They're ugly. They also have mosquitoes, and they have rodents, and because it's difficult to even mow, you got other problems that happen other than just mosquitoes. At one time, Singh Park was fenced in. It had a fence around it, and, the city managed to make some changes to it. Even though it doesn't really have any playground equipment, it doesn't have a lot of that. We get it, I get it. But at least it's open, than an ugly fenced-in place that you can't even, you gotta try to avoid. So, dual use, if we can do it, yeah, I get it. Like Mr. Ramirez said, there is a time that you're not gonna get it used sometimes, but it is used more. And look at the alternative of fenced in. I don't think so. So that's just my opinion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I also agree with my fellow council members up here, and thank you, Mr. Cabral, for being here. I think it's important that we do support the young people in our community as well. New subdivision is going to bring in a lot of new children, so I think it's important that we make use of the land that we have. So thank you very much.
Miguel, or anyone, the current proposed storm basin in acreage, what is the size of that storm basin? Roughly, I mean, I don't want an exact to the 1 acre? 1 acre?
It's about 1 acre.
It's about 1 acre? Okay,
A little over 1 acre, yes.
please. Thank you.
That was the size to match the capacity of houses to meet the standard for the drain basin. That's how that was originally set up, wanted to be set up.
So, Mr. Mayor, one other thing, it's getting old, I thought of something. What would happen if we combine the existing basin with another one and just make it even wider instead of having, just combine two?
Yes, we're discussing that internally, of combining the basin that's located to the south. So I put up the
Yeah.
proposed basin, so you can see both basins there, the one to the south and then this one. It is possible to combine them. Here's the one to the south. One of the things that we identified, NOE identified, is that this part would have to be excavated, and that would not be part of the project costs associated with the developer. This is something that the city would have to assume, so we'd have to remove a lot of the dirt and kind of do the engineering for all that. So it is possible to combine, but it will be at additional cost to the city.
Yeah, and I get that, but the good thing is, if they can be done at the same time, which I would say, because if that one has to be done anyway, doing a subcontract, whatever you want to call it, for the contractors doing that work, it can help to cut down the cost on redoing this one, because somebody's already there and some sort of agreement can be entered into. I think some agreement can be entered into.
I agree. We've discussed those options, and we discussed making perhaps this area a dual-use basin, making it larger, perhaps incorporating a couple lots. It's a good location because it's centrally located with the properties to the south and then properties to the north, and you got a Dwightway, which is a collector street, and this park area, if it is a dual-use
Right.
space, it can be used to serve the areas to the west here. So this is one area that we looked at. So that can work. Obviously, one of the policy questions is, should there be a standalone park where there's no, basin at all, and there's just playground and fields that are easy, that can be used throughout the year? Or is it a dual-use basin that has limited access during the winter and things like that?
So in terms of, I know that one of the big questions is always cost associated with this. So whatever the city's fair share cost is going to be, towards this effort, you'll be getting rid of a dead space, in terms of aesthetic dead space, even though it's being used for drainage. But we can use storm drain fees, and then we can also use park fees. Not that there's a lot out there, but we'll certainly look at the costs associated. But combining the two and making something really, hopefully comparable to what we have at Joseph Gallo, it makes sense because you're taking care of something that is unsightly and that's fenced in that suddenly becomes something open and with dual use or multi-use.
And also, from an engineering perspective, to add that right now this basin, proposed basin for Eric, is using the standards for a standalone basin. So normally dual-use basins are shallow, obviously for obvious reasons, to have people go in there and with gentler slopes. But we do have dual-use basins that are deeper, like Joseph Gallo. So at this point, Eric's team is in the preliminary stages of the project, and they would have to look into what could be done, not only with incorporating the existing basin, which is a standalone basin. It's about, if I'm not mistaken, the depth, I think your engineers identified about 10 feet deep. Yeah, 10 feet deep. So assuming, let's say, for example, that the design criteria is to keep the basin to 6 feet deep, which would be more in line with industry standards, that would mean that this basin would have to be backfilled to a shallower depth, and possibly growing this basin to accommodate the storm runoff. So, but again, Eric's engineers would have to look into this and see if we can come up with something similar to Joseph Gallo, where it's deep, but it can still be used as a dual-use basin, or come up with a shallow design. So just information to consider.
All right, so I'm thinking this would be normally the storm basin on that property, on that proposed property development. And then in addition to a park, roughly about 2.5 acres. How about thinking, and if we can use both, if the city was able to work and connect both of the water basins and create additional green space, and Mr. Cabral will be able to develop the park that is required for the residents. And whether it's somewhere in the middle or just added to the side or to one side, you know, it would actually create more green space. And actually, it would allow for a space for playground, and not just the water basin part of it, which could create space for, you know, swings, for maybe half-court basketball court, or, you know, just other things, other amenities for the residents in that subdivision. I mean, we already have the basin on the side, and the city could consider and look at what would be the cost of that option, because it would, you know, based on what's on here, you know, we're looking at a basin and a park, and right now we're only looking at a basin. So, you know, it's just trying to balance things out to where it's fair for everyone, and really the ones that are going to get to enjoy that green area is going to be you know, it's actually going to be more of an attraction to the people buying those properties there. And so, because they do have the amenities. Yes, we can always argue that there's, you know, about half a mile, or I don't know how far the Max Foster Park is from that location, but, you know, we're trying to provide the more the merrier, you know, just an alternative to consider.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
So staff is basically, recommending that we basically take the existing basin and what's being proposed as a basin and transform that into a dual use that looks hopefully as aesthetically pleasing and purposeful like Joseph Gallo. And that would entail some city costs, and we would looking at different types of funding sources, but the two that come to mind would be storm drain and park fees, and basically transform this area with Mr. Cabral's help into something that, again, can be multi-use, and you're getting rid of a dead space fenced area.
Yes, I do understand that, and what I meant to say was that we could have that plus additional green space from the park area that is being required by current guidelines in the city, is that for every 1,000 new residents, we need to have 5 acres of park and amenities. So, we're not gonna have 1,000 residents, figure about 550, so half of that is 2.5 acres. So if you add 2.5 acres to this water basin, and even if the city said, we'll look at the cost of joining those 2 water basins and we'll landscape it. But the residents will still have that land, both of the water basins that were turned into green spaces, plus additional park area to have amenities like a swing, like I'm looking at Fred Warden Park. It's a water basin with an additional section, very small section of with a playground, and people in that area are asking for a swing, but there's no space. So if we don't have anything, just the water basins converted into green space, there's going to be none of that extra amenities that they can have.
Your comments are well taken. So basically, this space that you're looking here, there will be cut and fill and designed to the best of the ability to have those level spaces to incorporate swings, basketball, whatever it is that the city would like to incorporate. So it's not just taking what's existing and then creating just another basin. It would be basically, there would be like a specific plan with that purpose in mind. Okay, because in order to connect the two properties, there would have to be some cut and then some fill in the area. I don't know if you want to share any additional information. That's basically, yeah, that's basically, so space, it would be intentional, Mayor, to incorporate some flat areas for the usage that you're just outlining. And if we don't have all the money to put all of those amenities in now, at least we have the space to incorporate them in budget for future. So whether it's a trail, now that we know that the community really likes trails around their parks, we would basically incorporate that way ahead of time. And even if we can't do it now, at least the space will be there for that to happen.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
On the proposed storm drain, I like the dual use, but I'd like a picture, if it was broken down into the dual use, how much of it's going to be the watershed, how much would be dedicated to the playground, and what about a skate park? How much level land are we talking in there, and what can we actually put in there?
Yes. So what I'm hearing tonight is if council can just direct staff, it looks like we want to go, into the dual space area, but there's nothing being approved yet because we got to do a lot of homework, but at least we'll be able to go in that direction and work with Mr. Cabral and his team so that we can come up with something and answer those specific questions. Because at this point, our city engineer and myself, we don't know because we have to, there's always calculations and different things and spaces, but we will get that answer for you. So if this evening, at least if council can tell us, you know what, we'd like the dual use direction, and please come back to us, you know, with the photos, let us know how much of the space is actually going to be usable and it's flat, and that's what we'll do.
Thank you.
We're good, Noe? Good, Miguel? All right, thank you.
Council, any other questions at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
if I heard you correctly, it sounded like what you were proposing was to have a separate standalone park and a basin that is connected to the existing basin that exists? Was that what you were proposing, to have a standalone park and a standalone basin that is connected to the existing basin that is adjacent to the property?
Yeah, well, yes,
Okay.
that is one option. Yeah.
Yes, and so, Mr. Wallace, it sounded like what you were asking was specifics on the distribution between watershed and a dual use versus level ground, correct?
Yeah, because when I first asked if the one to the south could hold it all and qualify, no, because we still need this. He didn't think the one at the south would, the extra costs, I didn't think prohibited that kind of.
Right.
That's why I was thinking, just keep the storm basin on this one, and then tell me how much more land we have with the proposed, keeping this storm basin and the park all in the same, that whole acreage. Tell me, divide it up with Storm Park, how much land we got, so we don't have to even think about the one on the south. Do we have enough room there for both on just that lot right now that's in red?
Right. And so, council, can we consider evaluating both options? I think it would be nice to have at least a cost estimate, because I will say the prospect of having a standalone park with no land dedicated for watershed, like if the park's just a park, obviously we're maximizing green space, so we may be at a point within that proposal where it's like, depending on what the cost of adjoining the basins looks like, it may not be feasible. And so can we consider evaluating both of those proposals, just so that when we come back and make a decision, we're clearly informed on the nuances of both?
Mr. Mayor? Yes. Okay. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I want to share that the property that you're looking at right now that is in red, if you convert that into a park, you still have to address the drainage. And the property next to it that's already a drainage doesn't have any capacity to hold more water because it was designed for that subdivision that it's currently serving. So so it sounds like what I'm hearing is the property that's currently designated as a basin, leave it as a basin, and then ask Mr. Cabral for more property for a park that would then be centered somewhere in the subdivision, okay? So, you know, all those are moving parts. And so because that has a big impact on Mr. Cabral, staff, and it was one of the reasons why staff brought this up, is because, you know, how can we make this work and where it's a mutual benefit? And if I'm sure that if for some reason we need, you know, a few more square feet to make things work, I'm sure Mr. Cabral will say, well, okay, well, let's do it here, you know, versus, I mean, I don't want to speak for Mr. Cabral, but he can speak for himself, but we're trying to look at all the moving parts, but we'll certainly do whatever council wants. So, but are we on the same page in terms of the moving parts here? Yeah, okay. Yeah, please.
I looked at this a couple different ways. When we originally did the storm basin, there was two things with the storm basin. There's pros and cons. One, is it a percolation for Sigma to get water back into the ground? Or is it two, do you want to pump the water out and put it into an outside source, whether that's most likely MID, and that's how that one's, the storm basin to the south is occupied. There was excess water that the one on the south could hold, but it wasn't enough to do both projects. There was some extra, but not enough. So in theory, there's, the way we looked at it is, if we wanted to build something that the houses could use, you have a dead space in the south that is able to get rid of water. What if we added ours with that, the project to the north, took out some more, brought it down, got rid of your dead space, and put the park in on one? You're knocking out two birds with one stone. You're still able to, the infrastructure is to pump that water out is, I believe, already there. It's just a matter of, is that pump big enough and the pipe big enough to take twice the water, or how much longer it will take to empty out that water? And those are conversations with MID, and they're up for that. So I think it's beneficial if, on our side, that it's a sore eye or an eyesore, the basin when it's not taken care of, and you have fences. There's people jumping in it. It's a mess when you're farming next to it. I think it's better, this is just my opinion, that would be taken out and you design a park/water basin in one at the acreage you need, and it's one centralized location. That way you could eliminate a fence and then accumulate enough ground at a certain depth. I don't think it has to be that's up for the engineers and what people want. If it's deeper, obviously it's harder to get into. But if it's shallower, it's easier, but you can't hold as much water. The bigger the depth, you can have different levels, so these areas fill faster. And worst case scenario, whatever you'd add would get wet. You know, anything that, I'd say a skate park would be pretty tough, but the area, utilize that area, make it look as appealing and good for the community there, to the kids. So I wouldn't want to put a park or any type of other thing open next to a storm basin, because you're gonna have people jumping the fence, and then that's just a liability. You'd want to, I think, eliminate that out of the equation, and then make it something that you could get rid of the water and it looks good, and the kids could use it. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. No, I think from what I heard, and the happy median is that, and the idea is to have those water basins converted into green spaces somehow, so that there could be multiple use for it, you know, like we have in some areas in the city, but also whether it's a standalone park somewhere else, or it could be next to the current designated water basin, still fine, you know. It's just altogether, whether it's separated or together, is just how much green space could be provided to the residents or the community besides the water basin. And I think there's probably, you know, but we'll let staff play with that and figure something out that could work for everybody involved. And so at this time, I will go out for public comment. 9:16, Is there anyone on the phone with public comment in regards to this item? Hearing none, coming back into the chamber, is there any citizen comments in the chamber in regards to this item? Seeing none, closing the citizen comment. And so if I heard correctly, there's enough direction. Is there anything else from council? Okay.
Can you please clarify the direction?
Direction, direction on city requirements for new park facilities and storm draining basin design. So basically is come back with multiple or some concepts and ideas and trying to put together both of the water basins, convert them into green spaces, and consider the option of additional
Dual use,
dual use for
multi-use.
for the water basins plus a park, whether it's anywhere else in the design or attached or connected or an extension to the green space, to the water basins. Is that correct?
Mr. Malone, just to confirm, are you proposing options for both a dual use park and storm basin plus a standalone park and a standalone basin? Or just a dual use?
So the idea was we need to have a water basin
Yes,
and we need to have a park.
yes.
But I think the council and staff wants to have dual use for the water basins, right? And then instead of having a separate standalone park, bring it and attach it and connect it to the already water basins that is going to be green spaces. So the green spaces should not only be just the water basins, but additional green spaces connected to the water basins.
Right.
So just for clarification, that existing drainage basin that's in purple, of course, it doesn't show purple on there, that will be converted into a green space with the drainage component added to it. And then once that's attached to the other one that's being proposed, the same thing will happen on the other side, and all of it would be master planned.
Connected.
Yeah.
One piece
Yeah.
plus additional park area attached to the water basins.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse anymore, but as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you're the smart ones and you guys know this, every subdivision, as we talked earlier, is required to provide on-site water storage and contribution towards park space. So if this were to, maybe I missed it, but this right here, not the south, but the north was, the one in red, is that only taken into account just the storm drain basin? Yeah, so there is a possibility, and I'm just throwing it out there right now, that if we were to, that there still will be another requirement for the project to provide either park in lieu fees or additional space, correct? So that could be technically expanded to provide more of a park where it'll be wider too, so it won't be as shallow. So there is a possibility to get kind of what we all want anyway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that's what I wanted to,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, because that's designed as a drainage basin.
I know, but if you take into account the
That's
additional park space required, that can literally expand and shift and do all that too. So there is a possibility to get rid of that eyesore and make it something easier and then make it a little more palatable for everybody.
That's correct. And then part of staff, as we do our analysis, you know, we will also look at, okay, park and lieu fees, if we don't have all the funds that we need, we could come back and say, okay, we need, this is a little bit more how it's going to be expanded and how we're going to address the eyesore and make it a dual, and then use some park and lieu fees to fill in the gaps.
That's exactly.
That's what we're
Thank
going to
you.
do.
Council, anything else?
I've talked enough.
All right, so direction was given. We don't need no, just direction. All right, next we have announcements and reports. City Council members' announcements and reports. Mr. Wallace?
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Roth?
Nothing to report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Paul?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, a couple items. As you guys know, the Faith in Football event took place last Saturday in town. Did not get to stay the whole time, unfortunately, but it was a pretty nice event. A very, very solid turnout for the first time being hosted. It would be cool if this continues over a period of time. I asked the organizers for a list of all the folks that came together, and the volunteer list was well over 40 or 50. So we're not going to spend the time naming that, but I do think it's important to acknowledge how many people came together for something like that. And I do want to thank Mr. Ramirez's staff and those that coordinated a meeting with several stakeholders in the city following some shootings that took place recently. I believe this is one of the events that stemmed out of that conversation, and so very positive that that took place. Other item, Mr. Moran and myself have spent a little bit of time over the last couple weeks or so exploring the potential of having a formal city youth commission within Livingston. I learned that we did used to have a teen commission that was run along with the rec department, and this could look like something similar to that. There are cities all over the state that are actively implementing youth commissions. Merced has one. Riverbank just put one in a few months back, and I know that they're moving closer and closer to really formalizing it and getting it going. I think it'd be a great way for us to build a pipeline of young folks that are engaged with the city. We have the Explorer program, and we have a couple other items, but this would just be one more way to bring those folks in here. And so we'll be hopefully having more discussion about that at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Samra? Thank you, and I have nothing tonight. Next item is we have council direction on future agenda items. Anything, council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like for us to bring back at a future date a discussion on the potential of establishing said youth commission. It's likely something we would have to do at the council level. We can mimic what's done in other cities, but would like for us to have that discussion and start moving along in that process.
All right, anything else? All right, we are going to retire. We're going to adjourn this meeting, but we're going to retire into closed session, and then we'll be back. Meeting adjourned.